between older NBA legends and the current NBA stars. It's been going on for quite some time, especially on First Take. Some feel that the lingering nostalgia of the game makes it harder to celebrate the current players, while others argue that today's greatest stars would dominate in previous eras. Draymond Green vocal on how former NBA players view today's players around the league on his podcast. Listen up.
People say you must respect each era, but the past eras don't respect this era.
I don't think that's true.
Me, you don't see some of the things these guys say?
The respect from the old is really, do the young dudes with us? Do they know who we are? That's why you get a lot of hate from the older generation, because they just want to be kept alive. One era always think that the other era is sorry until you leave the game and have an appreciation for the talent that you had to play against.
I disagree in the fact that, no, like these eras don't respect us. Like I've seen several guys talk over and over and over again, not in a positive light. I don't think that respect is passed down to us from the other generations, but I think people are quick to say, oh, you got to respect them because they came before. I don't agree with that.
Interesting. Stephen A., does Dre have a point?
No, he does not. He doesn't have a point when you only make half the point. I'm not going to disagree with him about some of the players disrespecting today's generation of players. But the problem that I challenge with Draymond is that oftentimes he leaves out the why. And that's what it comes down to. Baron Davis touched on it. You have cats that were predecessors that paved the way for you to be able to do what you do. I'm not talking basketball, Eminem and Doggy. I'm talking off the court. I'm talking the collective bargaining negotiations. I'm talking arguing with the league. I'm talking fending off the media when it wasn't podcast and everybody couldn't have a voice, and a level of scrutiny that you had to maneuver through in order to get to the point that these guys ultimately got to, where you're getting paid generational wealth. Then you got your money, and it's like, yeah, we it. And hell with all of these guys. They want to celebrate we ain't down with that. A lot of the guys, the old school guys, do feel disrespected by the modern day player. Some of them are excessive. Some of them are highly sensitive to today's generation of players, and they may exaggerate or embellish feeling levels of disrespect that don't actually exist, but some of it is valid. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, you got to take into account where it's coming from. Chandler Parsons said this when he was talking about Giannis's game, and he took the quotes from Draymond and all of a sudden elaborated a little bit more extensively. He talked about, do I think it could possibly make a run at Wilt's record or have over 100? He was talking about Giannis. I think they would arrest him if they saw Giannis in the 70s and did what he did against those guys. It's a whole different level of athleticism, resources, medical advances, etc. Those players think about those things, the old school guys. They think about the advantages that these guys have, something as simple as travel. You understand how you could travel first class, how you could travel chartered jets, how you don't have to have a second job in order to make money. Or they think about all these things. And they're like, you have any idea what we went through to have to perform? And you just want to ignore all of that when it comes to us? Nah. And that's what I'm saying. So it's not that Draymond doesn't have a point. Is that he's leaving out where the disrespect emanates from and how, to some degree, it's instigated by some of the modern day players because they got their bag and there's an absence of deference and respect that they have for those who paved the way for them. That's just the way. I'm telling you what players said to me.
But that's not about basketball on the court.
Well, what happens, it is.
But Draymond's talking about they're disrespected as like players on the court. All these other factors that you're bringing up have nothing to do with playing on the court.
That is patently false.
Stephen A., and their play and their talent. Yes, maybe it's a little bit of an advantage, but why should they be disrespected for things that they can't even control?
Well, first of all, nobody should be disrespected. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is because of the conditions under which they're playing, which facilitates them being able to focus on their game, players who came before them that didn't have that luxury feel resentment towards them because of it. So the subject is not about basketball. The subject is about a lack of respect. In other words, you don't see guys saying they can't play. You see guys saying, please, if I had those conditions, this is what I would be.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to say. And sometimes that's interpreted as disrespect because you're not taking all of those other things into consideration.
What if they had those conditions in the past? They wouldn't rise up and overcome them as well and be stars?
We're talking about
But I'm saying it should go both ways.
Okay, Molly. Okay, I tried. I'm telling you what the players are saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is that they're bringing old school guys. When they're talking about respect or lack thereof, they're bringing up those things. And those players are interpreting it as disrespect. They're not saying the guys can't play. They're saying if we had the luxuries that they have today, measure us the same way. That's what they're saying. I'm saying you're Draymond Green. You have to bring that up, too. It's not that he's wrong. It's that you have to bring up that part. Why are they saying this about the players?
Holding things against them that they can't control.
Well, I don't know who Draymond is referring to because, you know, LeBron is the one who brought up Giannis. He'd score 100 points a game. JJ sat with me forever and called the players that Kuzi played with plumbers and firemen and knocked them constantly about they didn't play against anybody. Querim doesn't say anything. I haven't heard Bird say anything about today's younger player. I don't hear Jordan say anything. What older player in the 80s, I even usually forget the 60s, the 80s is knocking a guy today. I haven't heard anybody, what, they put microphones? Jerry West responded to what JJ said and got mad at, but he responded. Who responded this past week to what LeBron said about Giannis? I didn't hear one player from the 80s say, you know, he didn't know what he was talking about. We would have knocked him down his rear end. He never would have gotten a layup. Because in those days, in the 80s, no layups. Giannis wouldn't have gotten a layup. He would have been on the ground every time he drove to the basket. He would have had to make his free throws. He would have had to play 82 games. Not 70, not 68, not load management. 82 games. And not only that, what Stevie said, how about 3 games in 3 nights in 3 different cities with the third game being a day game in a commercial aircraft where you're sitting in the back of the plane? So you're telling me that's not an advantage for the guy today who gets on his corporate jet and flies to the next city and plays a game, then has 3 off and then plays another game, and he takes days off because he don't feel like he wants to play that night. Those guys in those days, they played every day in some brutal conditions. And again, the big theme for me, did Kareem knock LeBron? He didn't say a word. Not one guy said anything badly when LeBron knocked them before he knocked LeBron. LeBron was basically saying, those guys stunk. Giannis would have scored 50 a game. No, he wouldn't have. And I didn't hear any of those players from way back say anything about that comment. That's what I think. So I don't know where Draymond's coming from.
What if Draymond switched his verbiage, and what if he had said, rather than former players, what if he had said the media?
Well, I mean,
would that be a more accurate statement?
Probably.
Okay, thank you. Monica?